You're very, very welcome to Brain Food in Movement. So you are expected to have watched the videos on the brain through life and Alzheimer's risks and protections. Just checking how many of you have done that are here. Give me a wave if you have. Cool. And there's a couple of you not on the screen. Hi, Ruth. So I'm not certain about Kristen. Oh, Suzanne, you're there. You haven't had a chance. Yeah, that's okay. So there will be I don't think there'll be much that you'll feel at sea about because really this is about putting the work into action, but I'm not going to go into the risks and the benefits or the risks and the shifts that we can make. So you must watch that at some point in order to achieve your certificate, and that will be evident in the quizzes that you're going to get this week that you have done that. So, as I said, I don't know whether to stand or sit because I'm doing a lot of standy stuff, and I don't want to be out of sh shot while I'm standing. But I'll just show you my roof, which is a bit distracting. Um, this is all about um, nourishing the brain towards cognitive reserve. Um, there are some small parts of this session that are about other things that can support the reduced risk of cognitive impairment, even with the physiological symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia. So you'll remember from the videos that even if you have physiological changes in the brain, it is possible to live without symptoms or to live with delayed symptoms or less severe symptoms. So that, I guess, is the big take home that I have said in the recordings, but I want to reiterate here. Having said that, no matter what the condition, no matter what the disease, no matter what occurs in our what might occur, what can occur, doing all the right things is no guarantee. So all the research around prevention of Alzheimer's dementia and Alzheimer's dementia symptoms, it's always percentage of reduced risk. It's not 100%. It's not going to happen. And there's no medication that will do that, and there is no activity which will do that. So it is an emotive subject. And it is very hard to maybe view those videos about reduced risk if you have a family member with Alzheimer's dementia, especially someone who has seemed to live a healthy life that is in line with some of the things that we can do. But on we go and we do our best. And I would highly recommend, as I mentioned in the recordings, that you read an article or the actual, well, you can't read the nun study in one study. It has many different studies that have come out of the nun study. So you would be reading multiple papers to gather all that the nun study has discovered. So there are some great articles on the nun study that you can access, but through a very easy Google search, try and find an article written by one of the researchers. I believe that there's one written by one of the primary researchers. I know there is. In fact, I was reading it the other day and I've forgotten which researcher it is, and I will try and find that out and send that to you. But do have a Google check. Um, we, of course, want to look after things like the stress response because stress, chronic stress, can be a contributing factor for the development of Alzheimer's dementia. But we will also be working on positive stress. There is a phenomenon. Is it a phenomenon? There is a known fact that positive stress, which is sometimes referred to as hormesis, which is one of my favorite words in the world, Hormesis, hormesis, which is basically um the when you put a stressor or a toxin essentially into the system to the level that facil or triggers a healing response. So hormesis is individual from one person to another. And if we go beyond our hormesis level, we get into damage. So an obvious hormesis thing would be vaccine. So a vaccine is delivering a toxin to create a healing response in the body. If we give too much of that, we get a negative response, and that can be individual from person to person, certainly gender to gender, body mass, and things like that can influence the dosage you might have of that. But strength training is a hormesis activity. It stresses your tissues to create a healing and strengthening response. And for sure, we all know that some of those stressors are going to be great for one person and it'll be a step too far for another, and injury will ensue, or even overload of the whole system and that kind of flu-like level of post-workout pain, which is a clear indicator that for your system right now, depending on your threat bucket or your physical system, that was too much for you. And that does change day to day. So even if you've been lifting in the gym and going fine, one day your threat bucket may make maybe too full, and that level that you've been lifting at will be a problem. All pretty much of what we're doing is hormesis intention in this session, because most of the things that we do to stimulate the brain are deliberately stressful and spooky, but we kind of need it. Um, we did a lovely drill on the first week where we did one hand flapping and one hand circling, and we saw that that can improve range of motion. We did an assess, reassess on that first week, and we saw that even cognitive challenges can help the nervous system regulate because, or as seen in increased range of motion. But again, if it's too much, it's going to cause the same kind of problems as we see in the eye exercises. If it's too much for your system, it's going to be a problem. I'm just going to share a slide. Why is it that it always takes time to find it? There we go. So, share screen. This is not the slide I'm sharing because you saw that last week. Just going through, you saw those last week. So, cognitive load creates cognitive reserve. So cognitive reserve is a mixture of things. It includes brain volume, and that was the first thing that was seen many, many, many decades ago when researchers saw in dissection of uh, the brains of donors who were non-symptomatic of Alzheimer's dementia, and they saw in these brains that there were some of the telltale signs of Alzheimer's dementia. And the kind of cruder research back in the day was they thought that this was related to brain volume, the physical side of the brain, but that seemed to be a uniting factor of the very few brains that were dissected. But what became more evident just before the non-study and within the non-study was that cognitive reserve is not just based on brain volume. It is based on how connected the brain is and how much it has worked in the past, how much learning there has been, how much thinking that creates and joins the dots, and curious thinking, and that people who have evidence of that kind of, well, dense use of language and dense thought processes, as seen in the diaries of the women in the nun study in their from their 20s or even late teens when they first entered the convents, that people who had adaptive thinking, more use of language, more use of multiple clauses in sentences, etc., seems to have less likelihood of developing symptoms of Alzheimer's dementia. So they started to call that cognitive reserve, which was about the idea that we have some extra bits in the bank that when things start to go wrong in the brain, the extra bits can step up and take the load, and therefore we can be asymptomatic or less symptomatic. And cognitive reserve is also seen to support people who've had a stroke and multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's to delay the onset of symptoms, just like it can help people with mild cognitive impairment or with Alzheimer's physical symptoms to be less symptomatic. Um, what's wonderful is they've discovered they initially thought that this has to be the case when you were young. You have to have had this education and this level of thinking when you're young. But looking at the brains of people in midlife and later life, they can see that people with or the yeah, looking at yes, exactly what I've said. People with a higher level of thinking and word use and sentence complexity in later life also show lower risk. And it has been seen that people who do study, like courses rather than just doing random bits of research, after 35, the age of 35, are less likely to develop Alzheimer's dementia symptoms than people who finished all their education by the age of 35. So even doing this training, if you're over 35, because there is work that you have to do and you have to submit coursework, is um, a benefit to your brain. Whereas if you were just kind of doing random research, there isn't as much positive research for you just kind of sitting there listening to informative podcasts. Whereas actually, we need to be a little more challenging. But yoga can be a little bit samey when it comes to both the content and the um, repetition of sequences. So some are more samey than others, like Ashtanga is the same sequence, Bikram is the same sequence, etc. Some other styles will mix it up. But also what can be a bit um, less than ideal is that yoga teachers, us, we tend to instruct every single moment of the train of our classes. We instruct every foot move, every hand move, nearly every finger move. So actually what we're trying to do is to shake things up a little bit to try to help people get a little more challenge. I'll talk about vestibular in a minute. So you've already heard about the main input challenges from input channels from Diana, the visual, the vestibular, and the proprioceptive. And any of these being stimulated will stimulate the brain and are a great place to start and a great way to kind of consider um, when you're structuring a class, like how can I stimulate the proprioceptive system a bit more today? How can I stimulate the visual system a bit more today? How can I stimulate the vestibular system a bit more than my normal yoga class today? And also, how can I stimulate cognitive function more or create challenges for their cognitive function? So the first thing I'm going to do is wreck your head because you have done one or two anyway eye exercises with Diana, and you may have you learned saccades yet, the fast or the targeted movements left, right, left, right? You haven't, I think. Okay, so we're going to do saccades. So I'm going to get ahead of Diana teaching them and teach them kind of backwards. So first I'll teach them forwards and then I'll teach them backwards. So if you could take your hands, one thumb down and one thumb up. I'm just staying in the video frame here. I might sit down so the lights aren't in the back of shot to confuse you. So one thumb up and one thumb down. I would take them slightly higher than I have them relative to my body, especially this one. I just don't want to go out of shot. And you're going to look at the bottom thumb and really focus on the nail. And then look up at the top thumb and focus on the nail. Do not move your head and keep going up and down. And don't go terribly fast, but really see each thumb very specifically. Your first challenge is going to be that I'm going to force you to follow my rhythm. So we're going to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. The rhythm might change. Up, down, 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 down, and rest. So this is just an eye exercise that Diana will go through with you, and that's one way we can make it more difficult. Adding rhythm stimulates the temporal lobes in particular, but anyway, having to follow a rhythm is a stressor, and that may be one of the reasons why training as a dancer or training to dance the foxtrot or whatever can help to reduce the likelihood of Alzheimer's dementia symptoms. But we're now going to do what I call anti-saccades, which is the opposite. This is stacking and eye exercise. You learn a lot about stacking on this course. I'm going to call out the opposite instruction. So when I say up, your job is to look down to the bottom thumb and then back to center and wait for the next instruction. So if I say up, you look down, I'm centered. If I say up again, down and center. If I say up, down, you look up, center. So you're waiting for the next instruction. So let's give it a go. Take your thumbs up and one down. And again, a little higher. I'll push out so you can see the approximate height. You want to be able to see pretty easily, but not to really, not to make it too easy. So you're not desperately stressed. So you start at center for this one, and you're going opposite to what I say. So let's look down, down, down. So what I'm hoping there is you looked up 3 times and back to center. And now I'm going to go ahead and get even more confusing for you. So we're going to look down, down, up, 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 down, up, down, 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 up, up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up, down, and rest. So the value of any brain challenge is when it's really hard. So one of the things you need to do with your students is keep comforting them that whenever they are challenged, they're getting the goodies. If it's not difficult, they're not getting any benefit out of it, because you will have people feeling, I should have stopped the share there. I'm so sorry, because people watching the recording won't have been able to see my face. That's utterly ridiculous. So at the end at 7 o'clock, Jasmine, will you remind me to record that separately for the people who were not here? So yeah, got to get difficult. And we're going to get difficult now by beginning with a coordination challenge, which are used very much in trying to revive brains that have become a little bit sluggish. And there's plenty of research showing us that learning to do left hand, right hand things simultaneously is good for the brain's vibrancy. It wakes it, the brain shows a lot of energy and a lot of activity when you do opposite things with different limbs. It shows a lot of activity when you do diagonal things with one side arm and the opposite leg, and it shows activity when you do non-dominant side things. Again, this is about difficulty, but it's also about practice. So I'm going to just teach you 2 non-yoga type coordination challenges now. Remember, you already have the hand flapping one in your toolkit that we did on the first day. And here's just a couple that is very easy to pick up off the internet. So I picked these up off the internet. You can do the same. And in fact, you're going to be expected in your practicum in June to bring us a new coordination challenge. So we're going to hop up. And some of these, my intention here is that there'll be some that are slightly easy for some of you and harder for others of you, and then some that might be impossible for some of us. The level of difficulty is very variable person to person. And I noticed that on our first training, we had a lot of dancers, and all the coordination challenges that I gave them, they were just like, yeah, I got it first time. And you're like, oh my God. But the rest of us mere mortals will find it a little harder. So this first one is, you'd think, quite easy, but it took me a while to kind of get it. So we're simply going to tap one heel, the other heel, On the heel we've just tapped, we're going to tap it out. So the toes stay in and the heel taps out. Then we tap that heel back at center, the other heel, and tap the second heel out. So whichever heel taps second is the one that pivots for the third tap. So it's a 4-beat movement, which is heel, heel, tap, heel, heel, tap, heel, heel, tap, heel, heel, tap. And I'm just doing exactly the opposite to what I said because I'm so busy teaching. So heel, so let's go left, right, right heel, right, left, left heel, left, right, right heel, right, left, left heel. Now, my instructions may confuse you, so I'm not going to instruct anymore, and I'm going to get you to just work on your own for about a minute, start slowly, and really think your way into what you're doing. The fourth beat is when you bring the heel back in. So go ahead and try. And you might find that you end up creating your own kind of language to try and make sense of it. So you might be saying rights and lefts. You might be talking about little angles or things that this reminds you of. And once you feel like you've got the movement, try and speed it up. So there's a little double tap that happens with the foot that comes back. The moment I think I've got it, I lose it. And then take a break. Did anybody find that they needed to create their own language from brain to feet? Did you find that you found rhythm helpful or distracting? Was it easier when you went faster or slower? Did anybody find the whole thing was just too difficult? All those kinds of questions.
I,
Yes,
yeah, I found it so much, I was so much more at peace with this than doing the I one. The I one
yeah,
brought a lot more distress for me. Well, I can't do it with progressives. That's one thing. The I exercises are not great. So I took them off. But even so, um, for me, there was almost a joy of doing it, of joy of
great.
figuring it out. Like for me, and I think because I'm such a somatic or I'm such a body person. So
And
it
did you have any challenge in it though?
very little.
Okay, so then it's fun, but it may not be what you need.
No,
So,
exactly. The I was what I needed. That was so hard. I thought, and then I was like, I
yeah,
don't want to do this anymore. And it's so funny how it's
yeah. But we can amp up the physical stuff, which we're going to do. Oh, sorry about that. Yes, glasses are fine, Kristen. Once Genevieve got the rhythm and counter was easy, the rhythm helped. It's hard. Looking at your feet helped, yes. And when your mind wanders, you lose the flow, don't you, Jessica? Completely. Wanting to sing to the rhythm. Great idea. Absolutely fabulous. Okay, next little coordination challenge. Hop up again, please. And it starts with an arm challenge or an arm movement. So elbow out, elbow down, and punch across to the opposite hip. Let's go do that on the same arm. Doesn't matter which one. We're going to be alternating in a minute. Elbow out, elbow down, punch across to the opposite hip. Same on the same arm. Out, down, across. Then go ahead on the other side. Out, down, across, out, down, across, out, down, across. Now try and alternate in your own time and see what words make sense to you. So for me, out, down, across makes sense. You might have a different language. I always find that once I think I've got it, I get all relaxed and then I lose it. Oh, and I miss one little element. Okay, that's the arm movement. Foot movement. Foot in front, together, out to the side, back. In front, together, out to the side, back. Other foot, front, together, out, back. Front, together, out, back. Pretty easy for most. Out, back. Front, together, out, back. Front, together, out, back in your own time. And then let's try and mix the two. So we're going to try for opposite limbs. So right elbow out, left foot forward. Right elbow down, feet together, but just a tap. And then arm punching across, left arm out, left leg out to the left. So let's try that on the left again. So we step in and we go elbow, foot front, elbow out, foot front, elbow down, feet together, arm across, foot out to the side. And one more time. Elbow out, foot in front. Don't listen to me. Elbow down, feet together, and arm straight across, leg out to the side. Go ahead on the other side. So left elbow, right foot. Elbow out, foot front. Elbow down, foot together. Elbow out, punch, arm out, punch across. Foot front, elbow out. Feet together, elbow down, leg to the right, punch across. Now you're going to try and do it alternating in your own time. So left foot, right elbow. See what language you use or need. I can't even speak. I wanted to say need, but I said use. And when you feel you've kind of got that, especially if you found it easy, you're now going to do the same side leg, which might just confuse things a little bit because you've gotten used to the diagonals, but also because of the arm direction might be confusing. So right leg, right foot, left leg, right foot. And if you find that easy, you can stop. So what I'm showing you here is a possibly faster version of how we might teach coordination challenges. We guide one part first. We guide a second part. Then we put the easiest version together and we give loads of instruction. But then we need to suggest to people that they take it away and keep learning it. So you might ask them to video you or video themselves doing it and see if they can work at it. So I'm going to ask you to try and do it with my rhythm now. So I'm not going to say the words. This might be something you do on a second workshop. Do it. That's your rhythm without the words. So I'm just going to be saying 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. I did it wrong once I counted. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 1, 2, 3. That's why I'm not going to do it while I count. And you can always then stack with telling them colors for each movement, or they can shout out the colors of the rainbow while they do the movements. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and you're going to try and stay with my rhythm. So get yourself sorted. You can do the diagonals or the same side as you see fit. And we're going to go ahead beginning now. 1, 2, 3, and 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 work hard. 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and just do the arms if it's too much. 1, 2, 3, and just do the legs if it's too much. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and rest. Oh my gosh. As a teacher, it's a brain challenge for you as well. So my brain was going crazy there and I had to look after myself, but also it is hard, Ruth, isn't it? And for some of you, it's not. Like Kristen probably had quite a good time. I seem to recall Jasmine when she did the training, she was like, whatever. And, it's just depends on what bits of our brain we are training on a regular basis. So dancers, easy peasy. So, yeah, I showed you this slide before, but I just want to go through it again because it just makes me so happy. A slide that makes me happy. Oh, this slide makes me so happy because, as many of you know, I work with people with osteoporosis, and because vestibular challenges are so essential for proper learning for balance or proper balance improvements. Balance improvements are seen by a mixture of static balance, vestibular training, and dynamic balance. And dynamic balance includes soft surfaces and moving balances. Vestibular training usually involves head movements of some sort, and static balance is obviously the stuff that we do. But when you see, and this is just two of so many research studies on how it can support our brain health, it's just bats. Um, so I'm going to stop the share and we're going to play with some vestibular stuff, which now, this is important. Vestibular stuff is not to be taken lightly. It can be very, very challenging neurologically, but it is used for rehab for people who've had a neurological insult like a stroke. Um, and a certain degree of feeling the challenge is necessary to create that positive stress, that hormesis. So, the conversation I'm having here is about nausea and dizziness. When you do a vestibular challenge, a vestibular practice, particularly the ones I'm going to start with, well, actually, all of them, to be honest, you can develop dizziness in the moment. If your dizziness doesn't settle in about 15 minutes or so, then you have overstressed for your vestibular system. If it settles and you have experienced it, it is a good sign that you have created that hormesis effect in the vestibular system. I do not suggest that you try to work one-on-one with people with vestibular disorders or deficits. So people who struggle with vertigo regularly or who have been told they have a vestibular disorder or who are currently living with a neurological condition. That doesn't mean that they are not possible to be done with neurological conditions. I would just prefer if that was done with a vestibular rehab physiotherapist is what I would suggest they look for. Um, so with a healthy population, I use these. I mean, of course, osteoporosis is not a neurological disease. So with a neurologically healthy population, these are of benefit. Or if somebody has had a stroke and has had vestibular rehab and they're not having major vestibular symptoms, these are for use in a group setting rather than you working one-on-one. It's really important to start vestibular eye exercises and head exercises, obviously sitting. And then if people don't get adverse effects, they can come up to standing and then they can do it with the fancy stuff of standing on one leg, etc. If you personally want to really work on your vestibular system, you would go through these eye and head exercises a number of times, maybe do 20 of each direction. You'll understand what I mean in a minute. And do that for maybe twice a day for 2, 3 weeks till you notice you're finding it much easier and you don't get any kind of woozy feeling. And then you can try standing. And then you can try in tandem stance, one foot in front of the other. Then you can try balancing on one leg. Those of you who are vestibular healthy, you may find that you can start standing and move to one leg quite quickly. But what I'm trying to say is that it can take weeks to train the vestibular system. Don't expect that it improves just in one session. So we're going to learn them sitting down, and then we're going to take them standing. So before I teach them, just the other things that we can do for the vestibular system are in the sequences video on vestibular. We will also be doing a vestibular sun salutation today. And the other ones that are not in the video, the vestibular video, would be spinning. Um, will I can't remember if I do an inversion in the vestibular one, but just something like face down dog. That is a vestibular exercise. Bouncing, which we will do in the vestibular sun salutation. Balance generally, if your balance is bad, is a vestibular exercise because you're wobbling. Moving with your eyes closed is a vestibular exercise, and head movements and uneven surfaces, which I'm pretty certain are in the sequence video. But these eye exercises are not. And the first one is simply sitting, or you of course can stand if you want to, just turning your head side to side. I would tend personally for vestibular stuff because it's so much about our environment. I would tend to take my glasses off because they're reading glasses. So I'm trying to see the whole room as I go quite naturally. But if you have glasses for distance, then I would keep them on. So that's one exercise that you could do for starters, and that would be possible for most people, and it's only ever most people. And you could do that in a balancing pose, a yoga pose, a normal 2 feet standing pose, a tandem stance. Next is called, oh, sorry, all of these things can be done to the whole 8 directions of the compass. So let's just go up and down. Today we won't do all the directions, but right for this one we will, just so you feel all the directions. Then we can go up, right, down, left, so that diagonal. So you're just going naturally with head and eyes. Slow it down if you're feeling really iffy already, or stop if it's feeling too spooky. And then up, left, down, right. So this is all related to the semicircular canals in your ears. There are other movements that train other parts of our vestibular system, one of which we'll do in the vestibular sun salutation, which is bouncing, and then come back to center. So the next one is called vestibulo-ocular reflex, and it is something that I believe humans do only of all the animal kingdom, which is that we can move our head without moving our eyes. So if you could see something very close, not very close, but if you were sitting, if you have your computer there, maybe face the top corner so you're not looking at the video, but that kind of distance could be something on the wall if the wall is close by. So something not too far ahead, and fix your gaze absolutely stalwart on that object. Don't let your gaze move, and turn your head left and right. Don't get into stretchy head movements. It can be pretty small, so you don't need to challenge your neck mobility. As you get accustomed to this over weeks, you can go quite fast with the head movements. Stay fixed on the object, head left and right, and you might do 20 in those directions. Then we're going to go up and down. Very important safety feature. If your clients are standing, your students are standing, the head up movement has a risk of falling backwards. So the head up doesn't need to be big, or needs to not be big. And then diagonals. I find this quite hard for my VOR. Keeping the eyes fixed on your diagonal up and down, and you might do 20 in that direction, and then your diagonal the other way. Keep your eyes fixed. So we're doing this for our cognitive function, and it has so many other benefits for stability through life. Even without osteoporosis, our confidence in moving is much better when we feel our balance is good. Then take a break. After vestibular exercises, it is essential to take a little rest to let the stillness return, to help the nerves, which are essentially little hairs in your vestibular system, just get back to normal. So the fluids are not moving. The hairs are moving around the fluids. Like if you hold a cup of tea and you turn the cup, the water isn't turning. The cup is turning. Pretty bonkers. So that's what's happening in your vestibular system. The last vestibular visual exercise is called VOR cancellation. So we're doing the opposite. We're not letting our eyes stay still while our head moves. This time it's similar to the first one, but actually harder. Take a finger out in front of you and focus on the fingernail. If it's too small, hold something larger. and focus on what you can see that you're holding in front. And you're going to bring the object right and left and follow it religiously with head and eyes at the same rate. So don't let your eyes lag behind. Don't let your eyes go in front. You might find this already harder for some of you or easier for others, but when you take this into a balanced pose, it becomes super hard, I find. Let's go up, down. Remember the safety for the up, down, that we don't overdo the head up so that we don't tempt falling backwards. And we might do 20 each side. So in the class, I wouldn't do all these eye exercises. I might do one of them and I might do 10 each time, but I would talk about them being a take-home tool. Let's do a diagonal, head and eyes moving with each other, and the object is being followed absolutely accurately, well, as accurately as you can. Feel free to change hand for the other diagonal or at any time that your shoulder's getting tired. You might be feeling slight nausea or dizziness. That's great, as long as it's not overpowering. It would be better if it wasn't overpowering, but if it dissipates nonetheless, even if it's quite significant. And then rest your eyes and keep your head still. I did have one student for whom doing vestibular exercises induced vertigo, but she had a history of vertigo, which is why I don't tend to suggest doing them to people with vertigo disorders. But it is something that they would be well advised to do with a vestibular physio. Okay. Any questions on that, by the way? If you feel solid to stand up, we're going to do a really easy vestibular, visual, and proprioceptive drill that I highly recommend you bring into your life. I'm going to pause my video because I'm going to go and get a second chair. We might pause the recording actually, Jasmine. So for this one, you need a bigger room than I have. And you don't have to have chairs, but chairs are a great place to start if you have vulnerable people, people who are struggling with proprioception and people who are struggling with steadiness and the potential for falling. The chairs would be placed a little wider apart for beginners than these are, but I'm just going to have to do them here where they are because that's the best I've got in the space that I have. This is called the Infinity Walk, and it was developed by a woman called Deborah Sunbeck, who developed it initially for children with neurological disorders, and used it as a tool to try and help link up the two sides of the brain. And it has turned out to have a whole heap of benefits that maybe weren't entirely expected. So we see that it is intended and supportive of integrated hemispherical work, that the two sides of the brain are working well together. It helps to stimulate and challenge our peripheral vision. So let's imagine that it's training your peripheral vision. It is a dynamic balance challenge, especially for people who have difficulty with balance. So you might not find it a dynamic balance challenge, but some people would. It supports gait stability. So the ability of our gait, our walking to be stable is an incredibly big part of our long-term health and well-being. It supports cognitive focus, and it's doing this by combining physical tasks, visual tasks, vestibular tasks, and cognitive tasks that can be added on top. So to do the infinity walk, you stand between your chairs. Make sure there's nothing that you're going to trip on, by the way. And you establish an awareness of an object on the wall in front of you. And try and make it a very, very specific thing. If you were working one-to-one with someone, you could just hold your hand for them to look at. So you want to see a very specific thing, turn your back on it, and then turn to look over your right shoulder to see it. Then start walking behind the first chair to your right and walk around it in an infinity symbol, keeping your eyes fixed on the object. Then go through the chairs, walk around the left chair. I'm holding it slightly because I want to not trip on it because this my space is so limited. So you continue doing your infinity walk, your infinity symbol or figure of eight walk without taking your eyes off the thing you're looking at. I want to show you how to get it wrong for a moment, then I'll let you continue. If you turn your back and you look over your right shoulder, and then you try to walk to the left, you'll notice very quickly you can't keep your eye on it. You have to turn your head. That is something that you can build up to do. It's just slightly harder, but I think it's better to work with the constant connection first, both just to make those connections first and then start adding in fun stuff. So as you start again, you can also go to the left. It's good to change directions. Look over your left shoulder and start walking to the left, and you'll find that you're able to keep your gaze on the object as you do your infinity walk. So how to make it harder, bring the chairs closer together. How to make it easier, bring the chairs further apart. How to make it harder, have something hard to see on the floor. How to make it easier, have something larger, let a person touch the chairs as they go around. But as you see, it's challenging your visual system, your vestibular system with all the head turns, your visual vestibulo-ocular reflex, your proprioception where you are in space. And then pause. And there are other versions where, I know I've gone out of focus there. Why is that not coming back? Sorry, folks. There are other versions where you can look at something at the end. So I'm looking at a picture on a diagonal to my right. And then you do your infinity walk, keeping an eye on that. So it's just slightly harder because where the object is. And then you can do other fun things. Let's go back to our first object before we add the difficulty. The other thing you can do is go backwards. Oh, that didn't work. So how do I start it backwards? I can't even remember. I guess I go this way. So I go looking over my right shoulder. I start backwards behind the chair that's to my rightish. So that's obviously a huge challenge, walking backwards anyway. And walking backwards seems to have a huge amount of, just on its own in a straight line, has a huge amount of benefits for joints, back pain, and also for our cognitive reserve and our proprioception. The prescription for the infinity walk is like up to 20 minutes a day for work with people who are in need of that kind of neurological connection being a little more stimulated than it might have been in the past. Um, it's something that I think is a really valuable addition for people with osteoporosis in terms of positive challenge for proprioception, balance, and visual, and foot sensation also, if you're doing it in your bare feet, really good for that. Lots of ankle stability work having to happen there. So it's a really broadly applicable and very achievable exercise, I think is one of the most important things about that, that it feels doable for people who are scared to stand on one leg. It feels doable for people who are scared to do extra balance challenges, stand on wobbly surfaces and things like that. Any questions about the Infinity Walk? And I won't claim to know all the answers for sure. Spotting doing pirouettes. Yes, yes, where in a ballet class where you keep your eye on something and pirouette. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. I'm sure that ballet dancers are quite spectacularly proprioceptively skilled. Um, do you have a question, Kristen? The thing that you say you didn't quite get, is it the Infinity Walk? Because there might be other people not getting it either. So I could possibly
I
clear
think
something up.
I think part of it was I have a teeny tiny space as well. So part of it was I was trying to set it up. I didn't have enough space. And I think just with the instruction, I think I was spending so much time trying to get like what I needed. And then I lost some of the instruction. So part of
Okay,
it is
so I would
not
really
knowing.
recommend,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd recommend you do it outside. It's really nice to do in a
Yeah,
garden if you have an even surface and you're not in
I
danger with
do.
ankle stability and that kind of thing. So
That's a
outside
great
is,
idea.
yeah, really good. Garden
I th
chairs or
Could you explain the one thing could you just explain so my eyes what I was getting confused on is my body moving with my like am I turning my body throughout?
you're turning your body and keeping your eyes still. So what's happening
Okay.
is basically this a lot
Okay.
while also walking. And that's really great for that whole vestibular system and the brain stem with all that movement, the visual system, and then you've got the whole added part of the proprioceptive as you try and navigate your way around it. So again, we're stressing certain symptom systems, but I think it's really achievable and gentle for a lot of people. We're going to zoom on to the vestibular sun salutation. And I think that I think I recorded this on the first training and it is on up there as a bonus, but it might be slightly different, which means that you'll get to see, okay, we can do it different ways. But this is one I came up with and I find it kind of fun. You might enjoy it too. We've done a lot of vestibular work, but I hope that the Infinity Walk was easy enough that adding this one on top of having done all the eye exercises doesn't mess with your head too much. So we're going to start at the top of our mat. Now, when we do our step back for Warrior One, you're going to need to only go halfway back because you're going to end up needing to perform it at the other end of your mat. So don't run out of mat. Having said that, you can do it on the floor and not worry about your mat. So we start at the top of our mat and we're going to bounce. So bouncing stimulates the otolith organs. There's some organs alongside the semicircular canals in your vestibular system. And they're responsible for our awareness of acceleration forwards and back, side to side, and up and down. If you didn't have if these organs weren't functioning, when you go for a walk, the world would bounce with you with each step. Like if you video yourself while you're walking, the film bounces. Your life would bounce if your otolith organs weren't able to do their job. So we start bouncing, and then we'll pause, and we'll inhale the arms up. This is the one I find the most spooky. Turn on your spot clockwise twice. I only do it once because my vestibular system can't tolerate twice. So once is fine if you can't manage twice. And then step your left foot back into Warrior One. And we're going to quickly turn our head to look left and back to center. Turn your head to look right and back to center. Then you're going to step your right foot back to the back of your mat and pivot so you're doing Warrior One on the right again, facing back. When you're ready, step your right foot back, knee to the floor, come into either all fours, or if you're feeling strong, lift your knees slightly into bear pose. And we're going to crawl off the side of our mat to the right, and we're going to crawl back to our mat, and we're going to crawl off the side of our mat to the left, and we're going to crawl back to the mat. Come down into kneeling plank and down to your belly and come up into your back bend of choice. Breathing in if you haven't forgotten your breathing, I kind of have. And exhale down and push up into face down dog, or you can do puppy pose like this, or you can do holding a chair or a wall like this. So whichever version you're in, we are going to lift the head to look forwards. Pull your chin in to look to your knees, tilting your head. Look out under your right armpit. Look out under your left armpit. Bring your head to center. Knees down. Step your left foot forward into Warrior One facing the back of your mat. Suddenly turn to look right, left, center. Step your right foot back. pivot, warrior one on, oh, I got the foot wrong. Sorry, did I? Step your left foot back. I said the wrong foot. And you're facing back to the top of your mat with a left-footed warrior. Stepping up to vertical, one or two anti-clockwise turns and exhale down. We'll go through it one more time. You can watch the recording to do exactly that one again, or I'm going to give you just one little variation in the warrior and one little variation in the crawling. So, bouncing, which will feel quite nice probably. And inhale, arms up. Let's go clockwise to the right, once or twice, depending on what you can tolerate. Inhale, step the left foot back, warrior one on the right. Suddenly look up, suddenly look down. Head back to center. Step your right foot to the back of your mat, pivot, warrior one on the right, facing the other way. Inhale here. Exhale, step your hands and knees to the floor. Either bear pose with your knees off the floor or knees on the floor. Crawl diagonally forward to the right. Crawl diagonally backwards to the left. Crawl diagonally forwards to the left. Diagonally backwards to the right. Come back to the center of your mat. Knees, thighs, belly to the floor. Inhale into your back bend of choice. And exhale, face down dog. Look forward, look to your knees. Under the right armpit, under the left armpit. Knees down. Coming up, inhale, left foot forward into warrior on the left. Head looks up and down and center. Step your left foot back, pivot. Warrior on the left facing front. Step to the top of your mat. 2 or 1 counterclockwise circles on the spot. And exhale down. Close your eyes if you're comfortable to and be as still as can be. Relax your face. Notice how you're doing. Was that a positive stress for you? And you know it was positive if you're starting to feel the ease, despite the fact that you might feel a little bit woohoo. And then when you're ready, come back to the screens. And those of you who are here live, let me know if you have any questions or concerns. It was great. That's tricky though, right? It's funny. Sure. I think a lot of the brainy stuff is funny too. Yay! You all loved it. That's great. And you can't wait to teach in your classes, Jen. That's great. Just go easy with them at the beginning. They're particularly, yes, Nicola, very tiring. Absolutely. It really is very tiring. Um, I would be careful mostly of the turning on the spot and then suddenly stepping back into warrior one if they have lost balance. So you might start with one turn. And then if they find that fine after the first one and nobody's like going green, then you could add in the 2 turns. And then the other one that I think some people find hard is the head movements in dog. Yeah. And in fact, you could do that in isolation first. See how they got on with the head movements in dog in isolation first.
I love the head movement in dog. It was
Cool.
just, yeah, brilliant. Really nice.
Great. Cool.
Yeah.
I find them a little I think I have a vestibular deficit with up and also up to the right. So I know I need to train it, but it's definitely one that I have to do very carefully currently. And it's a vestibular deficit, but it's not like I'm falling down dead. It's just I know that that's a sensitive
You know what?
um
I'm loving the idea that So sometimes when I ask my students to perhaps nod their head yes and no in downward dog to release the tension in the back of the neck, they automatically sometimes will do that anyway.
Hmm.
They will kind of they'll look around and then they'll kind of
Oh,
find their own
great.
spotting. But to be able to now actually say to them that it's a good thing
Yes.
because of my training, it's always like, when you're in downward facing dog, there's a space, there's a place for your head, and that's where it stays. So that's, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
lot of yoga. A lot of yoga is there's a place for everything, and that's where it should stay. And that's the difficulty with bringing this work into yoga. You don't want, we'll talk about this in a subsequent session, but we don't want to take away people's precious yoga by adding too many neuro tools. And actually, you did yoga for menopause, Genevieve, and you know that when I talked about the neuro stuff, I wouldn't be doing loads of neuro in one class. You do one vestibular thing and maybe one cognitive thing, maybe an eye exercises, but maybe just two things in total that are a bit out there because you don't want them to be feeling like they're losing their delicious practice. But I do feel we need to just up the deliberate stressors. To give you a physical rest, could you get out a piece of paper? And this is not going to work for anyone who hasn't watched the Alzheimer's session, but you can maybe you know some stuff yourself. Just take 2 minutes to write down how you might describe the risk factors of Alzheimer's to someone while helping to reduce their fear. I'm going to just give it 2 minutes so that I don't interrupt and you don't ask me questions, and then we'll see how we get on after that. Obviously, those of you doing the recording can do the same. Just not taking another minute, please. So when you have done that, just if anyone wants to either ask a question if they're stuck, or if you have anything that struck you as helpful to say, or if you just want to read out what you've written, feel free. I know that's a little exposing potentially. That's fine if you don't want to. If you were stuck, you can ask questions. Yes, Nicola.
I'll just read out what I kind of wrote down from what I remember. So Alzheimer's is one of the most preventable diseases by lifestyle choices. So I feel this is a really something positive you can kind of focus on when considering your own risk and fear around Alzheimer's. So some really positive things you can do is to support your nutrition, eating well most of the time, looking after movements, prioritizing sleep, limiting, reducing alcohol and smoking. Social connections really important as well. So getting out and about, talking to people, keeping your brain active with crosswords and things like Lego, and just really kind of, focusing on things that you can do to help reduce the fear of, what might or might not happen.
Yeah, I really love that you said eating well most of the time,
Yeah.
because that's the a really important stress and potentially stress inducing issue. And we also need to eat for pleasure, because pleasure is really important for our feel good hormones and whatnot. So the achievability of what you've said is really important. There is some suggestion that I came across somewhere, which is to try and tick like three of those boxes for starters. Just make an improvement to your diet by adding more fiber. Um, Try and have one more conversation with somebody during your day, and consider learning a new language on Duolingo or something. Actually, there is quite a lot of evidence about learning a new language, which isn't the same as doing a degree. So, learning a new language in later life. Also, please note that alongside what you've said, and it is you're saying that this can happen now, is that these improvements can be made. Not that you don't have to have done them in your 20s. You can do stuff now. Genevieve.
Yeah, I actually, funnily enough, had the same conversation with my father-in-law the other day. So that's what I wrote down, what I told him. Because he does a lot of the things that he thinks that he should do. So he does the same loop around the green every day. So what I said to him was, that maybe just to shake things up a little, maybe you could do the loop in the opposite direction. And maybe you could take some of these hand weights with you. And then I was saying to him, and that puzzle that you keep doing in the paper, maybe you could do a different one. And I was saying
Yes.
to him, just to keep, because it's not about keeping the body as well oiled, but it's keeping the mind well oiled too. So yeah.
Brilliant. So Genevieve's suggestion of walking your route differently does amazing things for your brain. You have the shadows are falling from different sides of your face, the light is coming from different sides, the shapes are at different sides, your pavement navigation is different, the cars are on different side. All those little shifts of if you always go clockwise around the block, going anti-clockwise is a great start. I mean, it would be wonderful if then after a while they'll go to different places, etc. Different terrains are really good so that the ankles are working. Holding the weights, because strength is so important for Alzheimer's risk reduction as well, and all cause mortality, strength really matters. And what Genevieve pointed out there, which some of you might not be aware of, is the puzzle you're doing in the newspaper is great, but if you're only doing crosswords, your brain has gotten really used to crosswords. So even though the crossword might be different every time, it's the same type of puzzle. So you might be better off doing a crossword one day, start Sudoku, and then when you've gotten good at Sudoku, do something different. So it's not just that you're doing puzzles, it's that you are giving the brain different things to figure out. So that's really important, is that it's about the cognitive reserve is about the brain adapting to new things. And that's the really important piece, is that, yeah, as little as possible are we getting used to the same thing. By the way, regarding nutrition, there is a nutrition section in the book, not the book, the resources online and in the manual, I think. But there was two pieces of nutrition information that the studies came out in about a year, half a year before I wrote the manual, and I just haven't updated it, that people who ate more protein had less likelihood of developing Alzheimer's dementia, but people who ate more protein via beans and legumes had an even higher reduced risk. Now, please be aware, this is a correlation study. It is not a causative study. So a cause would be eat beans and you reduce Alzheimer's risk, like you take it like a medicine. Correlation is the people who happened to eat more of their protein through beans and legumes had a lower risk. It could be because beans and legumes are magic. Unlikely that they're magic, but they may have some fabulous bits. Some of the fabulous bits they have are fiber, and fiber, people who have higher fiber diets are also known to be at lower risk by a significant amount. And it could be because this is like a completely wild statement that may not be the case. People who eat beans tend to do more puzzles. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I mean, the most obvious thing you might say is people who eat beans are maybe more health conscious, so they do more exercise, but that could be absolutely nonsense. I know loads of very unhealthy vegetarians and vegans who don't do anything exercisey. So beans, legumes, and fiber would be something that may not have been pointed up as much in the nutrition section that I just wanted to call out here. Anybody else want to say anything before we move on from that little task? Yes, Kristen.
I just had two questions. One was actually rewinding back to the exercises we were doing. I have a lot of tension like in the base of my skull. So like actually made me dizzy, just headache, more headachy. Can you slow those like head movements down, or is it necessary
Oh,
that they be fast?
yeah.
Okay. Because it was uncomfortable for me because of my neck tension versus like I could do it if I slowed it down a lot more. Okay. Perfect.
Did you get improved neck mobility when you did the smooth pursuits with Diana? Um,
Yes.
so you
Yes.
could do a smooth pursuit first.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. Okay, and then the other question I had, and I'm not sure if we addressed this earlier and I just haven't caught back to it, is, we're talking about Alzheimer prevention, and where does the whole idea of like a brain fog fit in? Like a things that happen through menopause and brain fog, and how are there any studies out there that these activities also help with that brain fog?
Unfortunately, there are not studies specifically on neurological tools for brain fog, which is kind of bonkers in my opinion. Um, I use, when I have clients with brain fog and fatigue and concentration issues, I mostly teach them convergence, which is an eye exercise that I think Diana did with you last week. And if
Yeah.
not, yeah. So convergence seems to be really great for focus and I can't remember. Focus and concentration. I need to do some convergence. And so I would use that. Saccades would be more enlivening than smooth pursuits, so they might be worth trying. I wouldn't be necessarily jumping into the vestibular for brain fog, but I would totally be jumping into coordination challenges for brain fog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the stuff around that we're about to do some stuff that will be supportive of the temporal lobe, which houses the hippocampus. So maybe stimulating the temporal lobe can help to stimulate the hippocampus, which is a big memory center.
Yeah.
Going to just check the messages here. Yes, Suzanne, sense of purpose, really important. And I hope we're going to have time for a breakout room to talk about that in a moment. Also show you're left-handed, but may doing things with your right hand to find some of the exercise tough takes time. It happens from you in a step exercise class. Yeah, if you have a different dominant limb to the majority, then exercise classes might be unhelpful or difficult for you, but they are giving you more of the positive challenge, even though you don't want it. Okay, So moving swiftly on, thank you so much for that. Now there is lots, I think, in the recording that I gave you on Alzheimer's protections and risks to consider when you think about how you might describe it to people. But you don't even need to. You can just say we're doing this cognitive stuff for the sake of our future brain health. You don't even need to mention it, as long as people will get behind you on that. So share screen, we're just going to look a little bit more specifically through movement at the lobes that we looked at before. So how to stimulate specific um, lobes of the brain. So remember, we have two hemispheres. One of the most important bits um, of the brain that it seems to me, the more I study it, that needs that left-right connection is the frontal lobes. Um, Horizontal saccades um, do tend to shift the energy in the brain quite well from left to right. Alternate nostril breathing tends to stimulate the opposite sides of the brain. So right nostril breathing stimulates the left hemisphere, and left nostril breathing stimulates the right hemisphere of the brain. This is the whole hemisphere. Anti-saccades is what we did just there, which is about new learning, doing the opposite saccade, being instructed to do something that you have to do the opposite. It doesn't have to be just saccades. It could be anything. You tell them to tap their right foot forward, and they actually have to tap their nose with their left little finger or something like that. Quite a lot to work on. Moving to metronome or teacher's rhythm, which we're about to do, and short-term memory challenges. I'm not going to do this, but you can do, for example, teach a sequence of yoga poses on one side and get them to then repeat it on the other side without you guiding it. For beginners or people new to the neuro stuff, I'd teach it twice on one side, but tell them that they're going to have to do it themselves so they get the opportunity to concentrate on it. So it's kind of like, how can we make our yoga class more like a dance class for part of it, that there's something that they have to do, that they have to remember themselves. The parietal lobe, we're going to stimulate in a moment in this next little thing that we're about to do, about spatial reasoning. Where are things supposed to be going? Where's the back of my mat, the side of my mat, the front of my mat? Where's up, where's down? How far is something? Fine motor skills like finger tapping, which you have in Kirtan Kriya, or some coordination challenges stimulate the parietal, and cognitive training. So things like the stacking drills we might be doing, like once you've gotten a coordination challenge, you add something on top of it. Stacking drill would be learning to brush your teeth with the wrong hand, then doing it with standing on one leg, then doing it standing on one leg with your eyes closed. Calling a yoga pose a color, or making them remember something, or yeah, those things, all the things we're doing really. For the temporal lobes, hearing loss is a big part of what can be to do with the temporal lobes, or can be to do with nerve damage in the ears. It can be a combination of neurological issues and actual ear issues, like local ear issues. But rhythmic movement again, which we're going to do now, puzzles, even just using things like post-it notes to help you remember what you're supposed to do. So you have that sense of, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that and now I'm going to do that. That's actually a cognitive thing, even though you are using reminders around the house. That's cool. Chewing gum has been seen to stimulate the temporal lobe. There's risks to chewing gum with all the hideous sweeteners or whatever types of gum you use, but chewing generally must be good. But I think the studies had you chewing gum for longer than it might take you to eat your dinner. The occipital lobe, obviously, the vision exercises and our vestibulo-ocular reflex, and our cerebellum, which is about creating good posture, good balance, but it's also about understanding what you've done and seeing, was that good enough? So the cerebellum, when you decide in your cognitive brain, I'm going to pick up an orange, your frontal lobe instructs your body to make the move. You pick up the orange. Your cerebellum checks how well did you do that and decides to teach you to do it better if you did it badly. You're going to learn more about that in another session with Diana about the different ways in which our body is stimulated by our brain. But underactive side tasks can really help. So non-dominant tasks, things like spirally movements, because the spiral movements are not so common in life as linear movements. And the linear movements of like, I'm going to pick up a ball are frontal lobe. But those sort of more spirally flowy movements that we don't really do in life require such a lot of control that the cerebellum would have to be working quite hard there. Um, Drawing circle with non-dominant. Oh yeah, there's a really fun little exercise I'm going to show you now on your page that you can do on a page. So just get out a piece of paper. This is just a nice fun drill to do. I'm not going to be able to show you my piece of paper. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to show you in with my fingers. So this is a nice thing to do when you just want to sit down and don't want to do any movement. Get a piece of paper and hold a pen in each hand. That's not helpful, is it, if you don't have two pens? You could just do it with your fingers first if you want. So you're on a piece of paper, draw an up-down line with one hand and a circle with the other, over and over and over. It's better on a which if you're actually drawing because it's harder work. So if you can find two implements to draw, do that because we're so bad at holding pens in our non-dominant hand. And you can, of course, swap sides. Yeah, I'm seeing that right hand going circular, Jessica. Keep it up, down, that right hand. It was doing a little tiny little circle. That's why it's a bit easier with the paper because you can really see when you're going a bit buckety. So that's you stimulating your cerebellum there. The fine motor skills are good for parietal and for cerebellum because it's really all the time your cerebellum is going, that's rubbish, do it better. That's rubbish, do it better, or ace job. So that's the tricky things are what help us with the cerebellum. Okay, so we are going to do something that stimulates, oops, oh, I'm back in focus. The parietal lobe, because it's going to give you a difficulty of spatial awareness where you are in space. It's going to support the cerebellum because we're going to be doing spiralic movements and we're going to be correcting and improving all the time. It stimulates the vestibular system because we're going to be shifting from foot to foot and going into dynamic balance, like stepping quickly into a balancing pose. And it is going to stimulate your frontal lobe through the motor skills that are going to be required of you. Let's take ourselves onto the floor. When I taught this to the last group, they got very angry with me because I went too fast into developing the layers and expecting the group to have figured it out. So I'm going to be much nicer to you and hopefully take you through it step by step. The reason I did that with the other group was that I was kind of thinking, I need to get you through this drill. And in a class situation, of course, you would teach it much more incrementally. So it may still be a tiny bit fast for you, but I'm going to try and be a bit kinder. For some reason, I don't seem to be able to fit as much. I think I'll probably be okay like that for you not to see my face. This is strange. Let me just get the maximum space now. Okay. Let's hope that's okay. So just at the beginning, I'm just going to be a little bit out of shot with my head, and I do beg your pardon. So we start in warrior one with our right foot front. Oh, there we go. You can just about see me. And our left foot back. For the start of this, don't bother about the warrior arms. When warrior one, right foot forward, left foot back. We're going to take our right foot in a curtsy behind to find the edge of our mat to the side. Pivot to face all the way to the right. So you're now facing the side of your mat and come into dancer's pose on the left. That could just be the left toes touching the floor and you don't have to do the arms, or you can go all the way up into that pose. Now we're going to curtsy the left foot back to the top of the mat, find it, and pivot until you get to warrior one on the left. Now we're going to curtsy the left foot back behind to the side of the mat, pivot, and do dancer on the right. We're going to add in another section to this in a moment, but we're going to repeat that so that you get an opportunity to feel it again, like you would in learning a dance. You'd do a few of the dance steps again and again till you got them, then you'd move on. So, with or without arms, warrior one on the right, right foot curtsy to the side of the mat, pivot, dancer facing the left side of your mat. Left foot curtsy to the top of your mat again, pivot, warrior one on the left. Left foot curtsy behind to the side of the mat, pivot, dancer facing the right side of your mat. We're going to try that one more time with a little more speed. Warrior one on the right, right foot curtsy, pivot, dancer on the right foot. Left foot curtsy, pivot, warrior on the left facing front. Left foot curtsy, pivot, left foot dancer facing the right. The next move from dancer on the right, we step our right foot to the back of the mat, our left foot to the top of the mat, we're facing sideways. We come into side angle on the right, then we step into a balance on the left, stepping forward and just take that foot off the floor. You can do 3 if you like. Then step the right foot back, side angle on the left, pivot, balancing pose on your right foot facing the back of your mat. Step the left foot to the top of the mat, pivot, and you're ready to start again the whole sequence on the left leg. We're going to go back to the dancer facing right. So we were on our left leg dancer, and we step right foot to the back of the mat, left foot to the top. Right side angle, left foot balance facing front. Right foot steps back, side angle on the left, pivot, balance at the far end of your mat, right foot, left foot to the top of the mat, pivot, warrior one on the left to start again. Let's try that once more a bit faster and then we'll put it all together. So we're in dancer's pose on the left leg. And we go right foot back of mat, left foot front, side angle on the right, balance on the left. Right foot back, side angle on the left, pivot to balance on the right, facing back. Left foot, top of mat, pivot, warrior one. The horror is we're going to put all that together. So right foot front, we'll go on the right to start. Warrior one on the right. Right foot curtsy, pivot, dancer on the right, facing left. Left foot curtsy, pivot, warrior one on the left. Left foot curtsy, pivot, dancer's pose on the left. Right foot to the back, left foot to the front, side angle on the right, balance on the left. Step back, side angle on the left, balance on the right. Left foot steps back, warrior one facing front. Ah! Now we're going to try and do it on the left leg, and then I'm going to see if you can do it on your own. So warrior one on the left. Left foot curtsy, pivot, dancer on the left facing right. Right foot curtsy, pivot, warrior one on the right. Right foot curtsy, pivot, warrior one on the right. Left foot to the back of the mat, right foot to the top. Side angle on the left, balance on the right. Stepping back, side angle on the right, balance on the left. Right foot to the front of the mat, pivot, warrior one on the right. It's really confusing, isn't it, when you go on the other leg, because we're used, when we got to dancer on the right leg, we were used to curtsying, but instead we had to go to the back. See if you can try it on your own. I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to instruct it. That's a thing I often do for memory challenges and stuff. I do it in case people are freaking out so they can have a look at me, but I ask you not to look. But if you have to, I'll be there. Your own rhythm, see if you can work it out. Just do one side and you can choose to do the right only if you found the left too confusing because we did the right more times. So you decide. Go ahead in your own time. Try not to watch. Don't worry too much about rhythm as you try and figure it out your first time. You're welcome to come and tell me how you got on, those of you who are here live, if you want to. Seeing some hilarious faces. Anybody find that they were just way too so rubbish? So what I would suggest with the so rubbish is A, give it a go, keep trying. So I made that sequence up. I made it up about a year and a half ago. And every time I come back to it, I'm like, oh my God. But it's in there somewhere because now it only takes me 2 practices to get it before I prepare, before I teach. Totally lost, Sarah. Anybody not totally lost? And Sarah, were you totally lost when I was teaching it or just when you tried on your own? Did you hear me, Sarah? I'm just wondering, were you say you were totally
Yes,
lost?
yes, sorry.
Oh yeah, you were looking for your unmute.
I'm muting, yes. Also when you were teaching it, I got always lost when you were doing the curtsy, the turning, I don't know, somehow, even though normally it's not such a big problem, but somehow concentrating on right, left, curtsying, somehow
Yeah.
I always felt like I'm on the other side, or I don't know. I will try it from the recording.
Yeah, brilliant. That's the whole point. You'd get it with one more instruction and would like to watch me first without practicing it. Great idea. So you have that to do. You can do that, no problem. Brill. So here's a simpler way of doing some of that. Let's come onto the mat. Not all of it. You won't get the pivots, but you get rhythm. And that might be a good one for us to work on. And proprioception, of course, because yoga is great for proprioception. Okay, so I might just go sideways, then I'll be in the shot. Really. I have to take my notes for the first time that I do it, because I'll probably forget. Okay, so we're going to start in Tadasana. And we're going to inhale the arms up. Exhale, left foot back, warrior one, hands down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist to the right. You can do anything with your arms that you like. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, warrior two on the right. Inhale, side angle on the right. Exhale, reverse warrior two. I don't know what to call it, exalted goddess or something. Inhale, step up to a balance pose. Exhale, arms down. So that probably feels a lot easier, right? Let's go again, but go on the left. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, right foot back, arms down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist to the left. Anything you want with your arms. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, warrior two on the left. Inhale, side angle on the left. Exhale, reverse warrior or something, I think it's called. Inhale, balance pose at the front on the left foot. and exhale down. So those are very familiar. So what we add here is rhythm. So we're going to do it at a reasonable speed, and then I'm going to speed it up. So inhale, arms up. Exhale, left foot back, arms down. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, side angle. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, balance right. Exhale, hands, foot down. Again, normalish speed. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, right foot back. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, twist left. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, warrior two on the left. Inhale, side angle. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, balance on the left. Exhale, hands down. So those are fairly similar very simple and familiar poses, because when we get faster, we're going to lose perfection in terms of where our body is in space, and we might be more likely to injure ourselves if we're doing really a bonkers kind of crazy poses while we're trying to follow a teacher's rhythm. So first I'll do it faster at a regular rhythm, then I will do it at changing rhythms. So these are the things that are going to stimulate the temporal lobe and your cognitive function. I could also then go on to say orange, green, yellow, 7, all these fun things that you could play with if you're feeling creative. So I won't do the orange, green, yellow 7. I'll just do rhythm. So it's going to be pretty fast. Breathing in. No, we won't do the breath. Sorry. So arms up, left foot back. Arms up, twist right. Arms up, warrior two. And side angle and reverse warrior and a balance and stand. Arms up, right foot back. Arms up, twist left. Arms up, warrior two, side angle, reverse, balance, and stand. Now I'm going to go at different speeds. So we're going to do arms up, left foot back. Arms up, twist right. Arms up, warrior two. Side angle, reverse, and balance, and stand. Arms up, right foot back. Arms down, arms up, twist left. Arms up, warrior two, side angle. Reverse and balance and stand. None of this is set in stone. This is all just examples of ways that you can just add those variety of cognitive challenges. For those of you who found the one before just a shade too far, was that more achievable? That's a good heart workout, actually, when you go fast, isn't it? Yeah, good to see you nodding, Sarah. That's good. Very manageable. Great. Genevieve figured it out. She doesn't watch, but she listens. It's better. Yeah, that's really interesting. And then what you could do is you could challenge yourself to do it with your sound off and only watch. I think it's better but that's only for another time. It's better now to work with what helps you than to work with what's too difficult. Okay, so that little rhythm flow, we're working with the temporal, which is rhythm and movement learning. We're working with the frontal lobe, which likes rhythm or is stimulated by rhythm, where we could add something non-dominant, like just hold a tennis ball in your left hand, your non-dominant hand for the whole thing. Just that, just hold something. You could do it, here's a really interesting idea, as long as it's not dangerous. Do it with one sock on and one sock off. There's mad fun ways that you can play with this. So for example, you could put the sock on the dominant foot. If you have a leg that balances more easily, take away some of its stimulus, some of its pressure stimulus that helps it balance that feedback from the floor. Those kinds of things. There's loads of ways you can play with these things. We haven't done non-dominant today, and we probably won't get time, but the non-dominant stuff that I would suggest to you is holding a ball in the non-dominant hand and squeezing it, sequential finger tapping, doing anything on your underactive side. So, for example, if you do convergence and you notice that you have one eye that doesn't converge as well, train that eye to go to the to do its work properly. Diana will go into that, or she may already have done. Um, but also, do your balance poses twice on your more difficult side. If you have, I've got a much less strong right leg. So if I'm doing standing up from a chair with one leg, it's a strength exercise, it's probably quite neurological too. But this kind of thing, if I'm training in this movement, I'll do two on my less strong leg and one on the stronger one. So that kind of thing is pretty obvious, both neurologically as well as muscularly. Yeah. So what I'd like you to do, your next task, is with your non-dominant hand, write the last three things that you learned in this session. It doesn't have to be what we just did. Anything, and the three last things you can remember that you learned. When you're ready, you can stop doing that.
Neve, could I just ask something, please?
Mm,
When you mentioned about chewing gum and the jaw,
yeah.
does Diana do any tongue exercises at all on this course?
I haven't. Oh, we will be doing, yeah, Diana will be doing some uh tongue stuff, yeah, but I don't know if there's any research on it into temporal lobe stimulus, but it would make a lot of sense to me given
Yeah,
the similarities of tongue exercises and chewing gum
thank you.
to a degree. So, alongside all the cognitive stuff, we see benefits from in terms of kind of yoga stuff. I'll be doing a whole module on pranayama and meditation, and they're really important as well. But we see direct relationship to cognitive function of both the practice called Kirtan Kriya, which is the Satanama meditation, which there is a recording of, I'm pretty certain, in your resources. Sometimes in this module we do it, but we may not have time because there's something else I want to do first. There is a section that I would sometimes discuss here as well, which is just talking back and forth about different ideas for stacking. So I'm hoping that you're understanding the term stacking, which is adding more layers of challenge onto something. So for example, that drill that some of you found hard with the pivoting for dancer and stuff, it's stacked when I leave you alone to do it. That doesn't need any more stacking really for most people. Just trying to figure that out. And remember, if you didn't get it, if you went to a foxtrot class, a class to learn foxtrot, you would probably go home remembering about 3 or 4 steps. And then you'd go the next week and you might go home remembering those 3 or 4 plus another 6 or 4. And it takes a long time. So remember that it's supposed to be difficult. That's a really important thing. But when it gets easy, you have to stack. And the stacking in general can be, think of it as being either, if you're not doing something with the eyes, adding an eye exercise to something. If you're doing something on 2 feet, do it balancing. If you're doing something physical, add a cognitive challenge, like every time I say a letter of the alphabet, you have to call out a fruit or vegetable beginning with that letter. Or while you're doing it, name all the red things you can see in your room. Those kinds of they're not intellectual, they're fast reaction. So fast reaction is a really important part of developing cognitive reserve. So we have, just to go back to the last 2 things I want to discuss, is Kirtan Kriya, which I think I talked about did I talk about it in a little detail in the video? I did, so I don't need to talk about it anymore. I talked about the benefits that have been seen with regard to Kirtan Kriya, and they are also written in the manual. So I don't think I need to go into that again, but I do want to talk about something called spiritual fitness. Now, spiritual fitness is something that has been named by a yogi called, I can't remember his first name, which is terrible, but his second name is Khasla, Khalsa, Khalsa. And he has done a lot of the research into Kirtan Kriya and research into what he calls spiritual fitness. But when I look for broader research into spiritual fitness, and his research, it's not conclusive. The research on Kirtan Kriya is pretty conclusive, but what he calls spiritual fitness, the broader research doesn't necessarily point to a need for everything that he points to. So we do see elements of spiritual fitness, which would be things like having a purpose or mission in life, connection to others, a sense of not faith-based religious, but a sense of trust and belief in something, socialization, service to others, self-inquiry, search for peace of mind, contentment, things like that. But it is absolutely recognized that contentment or being okay with what is a support for longevity. Accepting and being okay with and even glad that we're getting to age supports our longevity and supports the likelihood that we will engage in health promoting behaviors. While we're searching for peace of mind, we are doing a lot of interesting cognitive things. We're going, ooh, this, that, the other. What about this? Maybe I'll try that. So we're trying new things. We're trying to figure stuff out. Self-inquiry, you can see how that might relate back to the piece about if you have evidence from your early adulthood of kind of making connections between things and considering stuff and looking around and behind things and using complex sentence structures, etc. So self-inquiry somehow just relates to that for me. We know that service to others can be really good for mental health, but to my knowledge is not specifically related to Alzheimer's dementia. But a sense of purpose or mission in life is indeed associated with reduced risk. And maybe it's because it creates a sense of happiness or contentment, or it reduces stress. Who knows what the definite reasons behind this. I'm going to pop you into breakout rooms for a little discussion. And it can be a sensitive discussion. So I want you to feel free to have it on any level you like. There's going to be one room of three. No, one, two, three, four. No, three rooms of two. Fabulous. I don't have a huge amount of time left, so we will take just 4 minutes, maybe 5. And I would like you to discuss either, well, I'll give you the more intimate one and then I'll give you the less intimate one. Discuss your sense of purpose or your role in life, what you see as your sense of purpose and your role in life. And if you feel it's lacking, what is the simplest and most achievable way you might either develop or recognize one? By that I mean, remember that if you have an aging parent who you bring a meal to 4 times a week, that is a purpose. If you are aiming to buy a camper van when you retire and you are doing things right now to put that in place, that is a purpose. That is a sense of purpose in your life. So your sense of purpose or your role in life, and if it feels too intimate to you, discuss what you see in a client or family member and how you might help them see their purpose, their sense of, or what is valuable about their purpose in life. I think it's easier emotionally to talk about somebody else. Please don't identify the person, but it's also interesting to notice how easy it can be to help someone see what's great about them and not necessarily so easy to see what we think is great about ourselves. So discuss your sense of purpose or role in life, and if you feel it's lacking, what is the most simple and achievable way you could develop or recognize one? Go ahead and launch, please, Jasmine. So the eye exercises that I did without the video on, I'm going to teach them now. So first we have a very ordinary, just looking left and right, and any speed you like. Look left and right and let your eyes follow with you. And then you might do that 20 times, and then looking up and down, just letting your eyes follow with you. Remember that up is the head position, which could induce falls in people who are standing, so you don't need to look far up. Don't tilt the head back too much. The diagonals, up right, down left, just eyes and head going naturally with each other. And up left, down right. And then back to center. The next one is the VOR, which you did hear all of that, but you just didn't see what I was doing. Eyes are fixed front on an object not too far away from you, and you turn your head left, right. You can go slow like this, or you can develop to go quite fast, and it can be quite small. Whatever speed works for you. Up, down. Diagonal. I find that was the one I was saying I find very hard to keep the eyes fixed. Work on it. And the other diagonal, that's my worst diagonal, up, left, down, right. And take a little rest. I can't remember if I didn't do up, down, did I? I didn't do up, down, so eyes fixed, up, down. Doesn't matter the order, to be honest, but obviously sometimes we build up by doing the easiest first and the hardest later, or we could start with the hardest first to see how we get on. Maybe we need a rest. Taking a little rest always after those head movements. I'm not going to take a rest now because I just need to get this recorded for you. So the last one was VOR cancellation, which looks like this: finger out in front or an object. If you find it hard to see your finger, you don't have to have a stretched arm, but not too close to your face. It's not convergence, an easy distance away, and you're moving the object side to side and you're following it absolutely religiously with your head and eyes in exactly the same speed. So don't let the eyes go faster than the head or slower than the head. Up, down, Again, you don't have to go high up or far side to side. Diagonals, up to 20 on each direction if you're planning to go deep into training your vestibular system on the other diagonal, and you can swap hands if necessary. I'm speeding through because you did get all the instructions without being able to see me, but just wanted to make sure you had a visual. Thank you. Might have been. So I didn't record some of what people were saying coming back from that talk about sense of purpose, just in case it was intimate, but I just wanted to reflect some other things that people were saying. One person was sharing that doing the course has helped to recognize that we get so much information, but we don't have to do anything with it, or we don't have to retain it, and we can get it so readily and just say it to somebody and then we forget it. And how we do that in our yoga classes too, we deliver everything on a plate, and that to have to just make ourselves write down what we've learned without looking at notes is a real challenge, and something that might just help us retain information, but also help our own cognitive reserve. And then another person was saying she's been using more of this neurological stuff in her yoga for menopause classes, and how one of the persons who was attending is bringing it into the office at school. And I wanted to mention that one of our graduates had written to us asking, is it okay to use this stuff for kids? And it's pretty much the same as for adults. If there's no contraindications, absolutely really great for neurological development to do vestibular work and coordination challenges and eye exercises. But the same goes if there are neurological disorders, etc. You need to obviously be asking those. I mean, I wouldn't be concerned about doing it with people who are neurodivergent as long as it doesn't trigger anxiety in them, or in fact, some of these things would be used by people who therapeutically intervene, but in a group setting, obviously, rather than in a one-to-one setting. Anything anybody else has to say? I won't keep you long, but you're welcome to speak if you want or need. And those of you who were watching the recording, I hope you thought about your own sense of purpose, and or how you might help you or someone else recognize that you do have one, or you do have a purpose. And it's really important to help. For me, it's really important to help the people who feel like they don't have some fabulous job they're doing that's changing the world, that they do indeed have a role and a purpose, but also to create one for yourself, like taking on volunteering or looking after the grass in your suburban estate or whatever it is. So thank you so much. Jasmine will, oh, lovely. Genevieve is sending getting her boys to do some of the challenges, which is really great, and they're loving it. That's nice to know. Muscle-bound bodybuilders getting improved range of motion. I love it. That makes me so happy. That's great. And a lot of this work is starting to come into the strength and conditioning world. And in fact, I think it's more in there now than it is in yoga. And I think its time has come for it to be in yoga, some of this stuff. Yeah, Jasmine will send you your requirements for next week, and I won't be here because I'll be teaching NeuroSoma yoga for menopause in Madrid, which I'm really excited about to bring it over there. So thank you so much for coming, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.